Now please join me in welcoming Adam Burke, President and CEO of Discover Los Angeles, to share his perspective on how the destination organization of the future is being thought about in a city like Los Angeles. Please welcome my friend, Adam.
You are such a sight for sore eyes, can I tell you? This has been a really long time coming. And can we all agree on one thing? Anyone who has made it through the past 2.5 years and is still standing tall, can we agree that we are all global all-stars? I also want to say a special welcome. It's pretty remarkable if you think about it, that half of the attendants this year are first-time attendees. So I really want to extend a welcome to all of our first-timers, and especially our colleagues from around the world, Senia and everyone who's coming here. We have so much to learn from each other. And I'll actually say, I thought what you said was exactly on the mark. As US destinations, we have so much to learn from our international colleagues, because candidly, they're further down the road than we are around some of these issues. My real hope is that this is just the beginning of a lot of incredible conversations and work. I love the expression that strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. So let's leave here with a lot of new friends and keep the work going. When I thought about today, and stick with me, because you may see this was really my overarching thought, and you may think, you know what in hell is he talking about? There is nothing about the last 2.5 years that has been a honeymoon. But let's turn the clock back to 2019. I know that feels like 10 years ago now. But in 2019, think about the issues we were already contending with. Number one, the specter of over-tourism was a very real issue around the world. We saw major destinations like Venice, like Barcelona, where the community was really rebelling against the tourism community. And it was absolutely making its way to the US. And if you look at what's happening in Hawaii today, that is coming back with a vengeance. Beyond that, if you look at the existential issue of climate change, sustainability was already a key issue, and candidly, we were behind the curve. And probably one of the most concerning things from a DMO perspective, there were municipalities across the country that were actually reaching in and trying to divert tourism funding for other programming. That's where we were in 2019. So the good news is we got a little bit of a reprieve for a couple years. Not that it was a fun 2.5 years, but we got a reprieve. All three of those issues have come back incredibly quickly. And if you layer on top of that, the fact that we are finally dealing with the reckoning that we really have never done a good job of creating a truly equitable and inclusive travel and tourism industry. And on top of that, the fact that most young people today do not view us as a particularly viable career choice. We have incredibly important issues that we have to lean in on together with a sense of urgency and purpose. So from an LA tourism perspective, we decided that really the only way to address this was to put the community at the front and center of everything we did. Because fundamentally, what I would argue is that what's good for residents is good for visitors, but the converse does not always hold true. And I think we all can point to examples of that. Fundamentally, to me, we need to be good and responsible stewards of our destinations. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I would really recommend that you look at the incredible work that Destinations International has done through both Destination Next and through Community Shared Value. There are tremendous resources there. I'm a big believer in mission statements. I think they are the external manifestation of how you think about your organization. So I think you choose those words with care. So we went back and looked, and what you see on screen here is our previous mission statement. I am not going to read this, because for those of you who are fans of Simon Sinek, start with why. This is not a why, this is a what. So we took a step back and fundamentally changed our mission to lead with community. Because the question I would ask is, can everyone on your team clearly and compellingly articulate your mission? How about your stakeholders? How about city officials? If we're not aligned around why we exist, we're never going to lean in on the tough topics. So you see, improve the quality of life for all Angelenos through the economic and community benefits of tourism. The important thing here that I'm going to talk about in a minute is all Angelenos. So what we decided to do is, we really needed to take an honest look at ourselves. So we formed a community advisory board. There were a couple reasons for that. First thing is, we didn't want to live in our own echo chamber and presume that we knew what the community was thinking. So in addition to initiating our first ever resident sentiment survey, we wanted to go out and have members of the community who have no obligation to us, in other words, they do not pull punches, be a barometer for what really the community thinks about us and our industry. The second part of that is we really passionately believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion need to be a foundational underpinning to absolutely everything we do. So our Community Advisory Board are 30 amazing community members who volunteer their time and talents, and not surprisingly, they represent 5 individual cohorts. So representing the Black and African American community, Hispanic and Latino, Asian American Pacific Islander, LGBTQ+, and Native American and Indigenous communities. This group has helped us do 2 things. First of all, give us an accurate read on how we're viewed in the community. And the second thing is, candidly, they hold us accountable. That's one of the biggest things. It's not, are we talking the talk, it's, are we walking the walk? Related to that, then, for a long time, and I think this is seeing what you were alluding to, there are those issues that were the proverbial third rail. Don't go near them, right? You're a tourism promotion agency, stay in your swim lane. What I would argue is if we're going to be responsible stewards of our community, there is no such thing. If there's a significant issue impacting our community, we need to be at the table engaging. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that we can own these issues. Can a tourism board solve homelessness? No. But we sure as hell can make a difference. So what we decided to do is really pick 3 core areas to focus on. And you can see on here what we really landed on as things that were going to be guiding principles for the organization. I want to give you 2 very tangible examples. So during the pandemic, not only Angelenos experiencing homelessness, but also the elderly were desperately in need of services. So through a partnership with the mayor's office, our convention center, our hotel community, our restaurant community, and our members in the transportation sector all came together and in the past year delivered over 1 million meals to Angelenos in need. That's how we can make a difference. In a similar vein, one of the things we've had to tackle is that there are some reinforced institutions that really do keep us from elevating underserved communities. A great example is we thought, you know what, we're going to go look at the city's portal for minority business enterprises. That way we can make sure that when we're looking for procurement, we really have representation. Well, we were having a hard time finding qualified vendors, so we talked to our Community Advisory Board. And what they said is, we're not at all surprised. What they shared was you have to understand that for underrepresented communities, a lot of them never go after city contracts. Either A, because they don't have the resources, or B, they think the game is fundamentally rigged. So there's no point jumping through all of those hoops. So instead, we empowered our Community Advisory Board that they can nominate any minority business enterprise, and we will waive their membership dues for a year so that they can connect with us and have the opportunity to see what we can do to lift them up. As a result of that effort, we're incredibly proud that we've added over 120 new members in the last 90 days. That's over a 10% increase. So then, as I start to wrap up, one of the things we really started to think about was, if you look at the UN SDGs, it is not just about environmental sustainability. There are things here like education, food security, and it really got us to think that we need to look at sustainability in terms of the long-term viability of our industry, our community, and our society. So what you see here are all the different dimensions of sustainability that we're going to be looking at as LA Tourism. The one that I really want to call your attention to is shock resistance. One of the biggest fallacies, I think, of the past 2.5 years has been no one saw this coming. Unfortunately, you know who did? Epidemiologists. They've been saying for over a decade that we were long overdue for a global pandemic. Raise your hand if you had global pandemic on your business plan 3 years ago. I know I sure as hell didn't, right? They knew it was coming, we didn't listen. So I think for us, we need to become our own disruptors. We need to look forward and say, what are the challenges, what are the headwinds that are going to be the biggest impediments to us continuing to be a viable industry? And more importantly, how can we make sure that we are change agents who have a positive impact on our community? I think it's that degree of foresight, because the only thing that's for sure, we are going to have more disruptions. So the choice is, 1, stand on the train tracks and wait for the train to come. 2, get off the tracks. Or I would say 3, get on the train and help steer. That's really what we want to do. So the last thought I'll leave you with is one of my favorite quotes by Margaret Mead. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So I look forward to partnering with everyone in this room and everyone in our industry to really bring about the change that we want to see in the world. Thanks.